Hakadosh Boker Or Masechet Bava Kamma daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph 37a1. Okay, we are on in the Gemara where the Gemara is going to say as follows. Yeah, the Gemara says on the Mishnah, we're on Mishnah at the top. The Mishnah says Shor Shehu Muad Lemino Ve'eno Muad Leshe'eno Mino. What happens if you have a shor which he's going to be muad for goring shores, but he's not a muad for goring other animals, right? Or muad le'adam, muad le'bema, or he's a muad for damaging people, but not for, right? Not muad for damaging animals. Muad le'ktanim, muad le'gdolim, or he's a muad for, goring small animals, like an egg, but not a muad for the gdolim, the big ones, right? Et shu muad lo, mishalem nezek shalem. She'enu muad lo, right? Mishalem chetzi nezek. Says the Mishnah something incredible. Whatever he's muad, he's going to pay nezek shalem. Whatever he's not muad, right? Thank you. He's going to pay chetzi nezek. Okay, make sense?
Makes sense.
Very good. Okay, makes sense. Meaning that this is what he has. Fine.
I don't know how you take the registry of.
We find out who is muad to gore.
Right.
You understand?
You need to know that in the past he was he already got this kind and not this kind.
No, you obviously know. We find
Muad
out.
is after 3 times, right?
Yeah, 3 times.
What do you mean, right?
That's what we know.
What do you need?
Okay. Fine. So it makes sense because basically they have a registry. You have to remember when they come and they make somebody into a muad, they have a registry. They say, okay, fine. He gored an animal. It was always ox. So he's muad for an ox, right? But he's not muad for everything then. Or not muad for a human being. But we're going to see. It says now, Amru lifne Rabbi Yehuda. So they said in front of Rabbi Yehuda, Arez muad l'shabbatot ve'eno muad lechol. What's the halacha if you have that he's muad for Shabbat, but not for the weekday? Meaning his oneg Shabbat is what? His oneg Shabbat is to gore. He's got a good oneg Shabbat. Yeah, this is an oneg, right? Some people, they have the oneg Shabbat that they don't come here, right? So they're, they get lost somewhere, whatever it is, and then, their oneg is levalot, right? And other people, no. So the same thing. You have a muad, he's only for Shabbatot, but not during the weekday. What's halacha? אמר להם לשבתו משלם נזק שלם, לימות החול משלם חצי נזק. מתי הוא תם? So when does he go back to become a tam? He says משיחזור בו, right? 3 ימי שבתות. When it comes 3 Shabbatot that he does not gore. When it comes 3 Shabbatot that he does not gore, he goes back to the original concept. Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara, Itmar, it was stated. Rav Zvid Amar, Rav Zvid comes and he says, he says like this, Ve'eno mu'ad tnan. What does it mean now, ve'eno muad? It means that he's not going to be a muad, right, to come into gore. If Papa says, eno muad tnan, not ve'eno muad, eno muad. What's the difference? Did you realize the difference or not? No? The first one, it says, the Mishnah is talking about where we know that the short is muad lemino, ve'eno muad, and it's not muad for she'eno mino. But if Papa just says, eno muad, not ve'eno, which means shor shu muad lemino, eno muad l'she'eno mino, without the vav, which means the Mishnah saying stam, that if it's only muad for one, it's not muad for the other. You understood the difference?
Yes.
Meaning, do you add the vav or not add the vav? Okay? Fine. Next. Rav Zvid Amar. Rav Zvid comes and he says, Ve'eno muad snan. What does it mean, Ve'eno muad? Hastama havi muad. Ve'eno muad means, and it's not a muad, but stam, it is going to be a muad. Rav Papa comes and he says, right, Eno muad snan, tistama lo havi muad. That stama, it's not going to be a muad. Yeah? Just close this. Yeah? Okay. So he says the stama, it's not going to be considered a muad. Rav Zvid, diek misefa, Rav Papa, diek mireisha. So he comes and he says this. He says Rav Zvid, he was medayek from the seifa, but Rav Papa was medayek from the seifa. Let's explain what does that mean exactly from the reisha, from the seifa. So he explains like this. Rav Zvid, right, diek misefa. Rav Zvid is going to be medayek from the seifa. He comes and he says like this. He says, right, diktani, as we learned, muad lektanim ve'eno muad legdolim. If it's going to be a muad for ktanim and it's not going to be a muad for gdolim. If you're going to tell me now that it's going to be good ve'eno muad vav ktani, so hastama ve'muad, so stama, it is muad. Hakamash milan dafinu ktanim legdolim. That means we always say that it's always going to be considered a muad. Elai Marta, but if you're going to tell me now, right? Elai Marta, he says like this. Elai Marta, but if you're going to tell me eno muad tani, that it's eno muad, so he says astam lo avi muad hashta yesh lomar. So now we want to say miktanim lektanim de alma, right? From ktanim, we're talking about now ktanim de alma. Stama lo avi muad. It's not muad. Miktanim legdolim. If you're going to tell me now that from Ktanim that it's not a muad, from Ktanim to Gedolim, you need to actually mention it? Obviously not, which means, why would I need to mention that a shor muad for Ktanim, right? And then it's going to be also for the Gedolim, that it's not going to be muad for Gedolim. It's obvious. Rav Papa is going to tell you, you need it. He says, why? He says, Sal kadaita chamina, I would have thought to say, right? Oilu paratz be ba'ahu mina. Since he already started with that mean, paratzbe, he already went in. As loshna gdolim didev loshna, so there's no difference in big and mean like this. If he's already going to come and start going donkeys, so the second that he went into the donkey class, what do I care whether it's big donkeys or small donkeys? He started going donkeys. That's it. That's already enough. Kamash Malan comes teach you that it's not considered, right, a muad. That's what we're trying to say. It's not considered a muad. Okay, fine. Rav Papa diek mereisha. Rav Papa was medayek from the reisha. What does it mean he was medayek from the reisha? He says over here like this: Tiktani muad laadam eno muad labema. When we're going to talk about somebody that's going to be muad laadam, it's not going to be considered muad for bema. So he says like this: Iyamar bishma. If you're going to tell me now eno muad tran, that he's not a muad stama, what does that mean? That he's not stama lo muad? Right? We're on Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. Right? Hakamash Malan comes teach you that filu me'adam lebema, even from a human being to an animal. Nami stama lo havi muad, so it's also not going to be muad. Elayimar, but if you're going to tell me now ve'eno muad ktani, and it's not a muad, so stama it is a muad. Hashta yeshlomar, so now you're going to tell me be'ema lebe'ema, the stama is a muad, so me'adam lebe'ema, tzicha lemember, you have to say it, obviously. You're going to say that it's going to be considered a muad all the time. What does that mean? When you added the word, the letter vav, ve'eno muad, it's for sure going to be talking about a case where it is going to be a muad. And therefore, for sure, it's going to be problematic. Razvid is going to tell you, Reisha achazarakai. The Reisha is talking about when you're going back to becoming a tam. Remember, we at the right. So therefore, he says, Kegon da'ava muad la'adam muad le'behema. He was a muad for Adam and behema. Vehadar behema, and then he retracted from behema. Dekaiga behema tlat azimna, that he was by an animal 3 times. Velo nagach, and it didn't gore him. So ma'u detema, I would have thought to say, Kevan de lo hadar be'adam, since he didn't retract from the human being, chazara de be'emalam chazara, so it's not considered a good chazara. Okay, Kamash Malan comes teach you the chazara de be'ema, right? The chazara of a behema, he comes to say, Mia chazara havya, it is considered a good chazara. So that's a chidush. The chazara of a human being is considered a good chazara, which means if he stopped goring from animals, so even though he didn't stop goring from the human beings, it's still considered a chazara. It's considered he retracted. He's a tam for animals. You understand what we're talking about? I see you're a little bit distracted, so you're not really with me. So one more time, right? We're talking about a case of that a person has to become a muad, an animal has to become a muad. What are we talking about when he has to become a muad? So we say that an animal has to become muad means, right, that basically that he's going 3 times, but now it depends on the species. So if he's going to come and start, damaging certain species, and it's on everything, it's on shore, so then he's a muad for everything. But if you're going to tell me it's only animals, so it's only animals, not human beings. If it's only human, so it's only human beings. What happens if he's a muad for both animals and human beings? And now I want to bring him back to become a tam. So to bring him back from becoming a tam, if he stopped going 3 times and he was with an animal and he didn't go an animal, he comes back to becoming a tam for the animal. Says the Gemara, I would have had a havamina that since he didn't retract from the human being, he's still considered a muad. Kamash malan, that he goes back to a tam for animals, not for human beings, but for animals.
He was with an animal and didn't go 3 times.
Yes. So Meitvei, so they're going to ask the following question. Sumchu Somer, Sumchu says, Muad le'adam, Muad le'be'emar. Somebody's going to be a muad for a human being, is going to be a muad for an animal. It's a kavachomer. Uma le'adam, just like an adam. A muad le'be'emar, lo kol sheken. If he's going to be a muad for a dam, obviously he's going to be a muad for a be'emar. So mikal the Tanakama and a muad kama. So it's mashma that according to the Tanakama, he argues on Sumchus. He doesn't hold to that. Meaning he says, okay, he's only a muad for an adam, and he's not muad for a be'emar. And that's like Rav Papa in our Mishnah. Oziel is going to say that the same thing. Sumchus chazara. Sumchus is only going on the chazara. And since Sumchus is only going on the chazara, so therefore it's going to be different. Okay? So he says over here like this. He says, chazara kai v'achi kama le Tanakama. This is what he tells the Tanakama. The kamarta, the chazara de be'ema chazarahi. You said that it's going to be considered a chazara. Chazara de be'ema lav chazarahi. It's not going to be considered a chazara from a kal v'chomer, right? Me'adam. From a human being. What does that mean? If he's not going to retract from an adam, from a behema, it's not a kol sheken that it's going to be that he's not going to retract. So Amar Ravashi comes and he says, Tashema, we're going to come and prove. Amru lifnei Rabbi Yehuda. They said in front of Rabbi Yehuda, Hareze muad, right? Hareze muad leShabbatot ve'enu muad lechol. If it's going to be a muad for Shabbatot, they're not going to be muad for the chol. Amar lahem, right? LeShabbatot meshalem nezek shalem. He says, for Shabbatot, he's going to pay nezek shalem. For the chol, chetzi nezek. You remember one more time. He's one for Shabbat, but not for chol. So if he's always going on Shabbatot, so therefore on Shabbat, he pays nezek shalem. Weekday, chetzi nezek. I understand ve'eno muad ktani, when it means ve'eno muad, shayu lehu de kamashay lele. But they asked, v'unami kamahada lehu. So they're going to come and they're going to be me'ader, they're going to answer. But if you're going to tell me now that it's eno muad ktani, not ve'eno, eno muad, so agmurehu de kamegamarele, what? The students are coming and teaching you halacha? The two, and furthermore, iumai kamadele. So what's he answering then? Well, what's going on then? This is a re'ayah that the girsa should be ve'eno muad, and it's not a muad, right? That's what we're trying to say. Remember one more time, when we're coming and we're saying ve'eno muad, it's like that we know that it's not a muad. Right? That means the stama is that it is a muad, ve'eno muad, and we know that it's not a muad. If you just say eno muad, you're telling the stama is that it's not a muad. Okay, the question is, what is the stam of an animal? The stam of an animal that it is a muad or it's not a muad. So if you say ve'eno muad, it means the stam of an animal is that it is a muad, but this one is not a muad. But if you say eno muad, it's not a muad. Okay? So Amar Rabbi Yanai says, Rabbi Yanai, Mereisha Namidaika, I won't actually be from the Reisha Diktani, Et Shemuad Lo Meshalem Nezek Shalem, Et Shemuad Lo Meshalem Chatzi Nezek. So we already said, whatever it's going to be a muad to gore, it's Nezek Shalem. If it's not a muad to gore, Chatzi Nezek. So he says, Iyam Rabbi Shema, I understand, Ve'eno Muad Ktani, Parushik Mefaresh Lebus, it's explaining it. But if you're going to tell me now, Eno Muad Ktani, right? So Pascha, so he comes and he says, if it's going to stop, so what's going on then? My two, what does it mean then? What does that mean then? So he says, Adhashta lo ashmiinan, tehatam, by meshalem chetzi nezek, umuad meshalem nezek shalem. He says, what? I never knew that? That a tam is going to pay chetzi nezek and this is going to pay nezek shalem? It's obvious. Like, what's going on then? What are we teaching? If you're going to tell me now, right? Nami itan Rav Papa, that he holds like Rav Papa. So he says, Nagach shor chamor v'gamal, nasa muad lekol. He comes and he says this. What happens if he comes and he's going to gore? But when he's going to gore one of each. One shor, a chamor, and a gamal. What's going to happen? So he comes and he says, Nasa muad lekol. He becomes a muad for everything. You understood? He becomes a muad for everything. So he comes and he says, why? Because it's one of each. So it's not going to say that he's a muad just for this. He's a muad for all the animals. Because he did one shor, one chamor, one gamal, one lakol. Make sense?
There's no coincidence that the three big animals.
No, we're saying it's a muad for three different types of animals. Okay? So Tana Rabbanan, we learned to write Rao shor v'nagach. Shor v'lo nagach, shor nagach, shor v'lo nagach, shor nagach, shor lo nagach. Na'asa muad l'sirugin l'shvarim. Here, we already learned this in Ilchot Nidah. Right? And in Ilchot Nidah, we learned it from here. But here's the Mekor Din. Imagine right now the shor comes, he sees an animal, and he gores. The second time he sees an animal, he does not gore. Third time he sees an animal, he gores. Fourth time he sees an animal, does not gore. Fifth time he sees an animal, he gores. Sixth time, he does not gore. So it's yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. He becomes a mu'ad, the sirugin. Just like in Netilat Yadayim, you have sirugin. One, like that. So it's called sirugin, right? One, yeah, one. So same thing. One yes, one no. One yes, one. So every sirugin, he's a mu'ad. So if it's going to be time number 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, they continue going, he's always going to be chayav. If it's always going to be the other one, he's like a tam. You understood? That's what happens. Okay? So he says, Tanu Rabbanan, La'ashro v'nagach, chamor v'lo nagach, sus v'nagach, gamal v'lo nagach, para v'nagach, arod v'lo nagach, asam wa'ala sirugin, lakol. Here, since I added the different animals, and each time he was goring different animals, sorry, and each time, thank you, and sometimes he was not going, so now he became wa'ala sirugin, but for all the animals, because until now we were only talking about shores. Now we're talking about all the animals. Okay? So now the Gemara is going to ask, so we're going to ask the following question. Okay? And by the way, you should know the majority of all of Hilchot Nida with Kuf Pei Tet, which had to do with Vestot, is learned from here with the shores. That what happens, if she has one and then she changes and then this and then like all the periods and all that, they all learn it from here.
Somehow it's not surprising that the woman goes with the show.
So they're going to ask now the following question. Nagach, Lamed Zayin Ubet, Nagach, Shor, Hamor Gamal. What's halacha?
Shor, Hamor Gamal.
No, but 3 times Shor.
Right.
Shor, Hamor Gamal.
No, with 3 animals is already muad. So
no, but the question is, the last Shor, is it after the first 2? Or is it after the last 2? Because one more time, you have Shor, Chamor, Gamal. If I
become just lemino of every animal.
Now you're using your brain. Yeah? That's what I was saying. Exactly. That's what the Gemara asks. Hi Shor Batra. This Shor Batra, Batar Shvarim Shadiname. Do we throw it after the last shores? So therefore it's Shor. And Gamal no. And now you have Chamor Gamal. You only have 2 of the other animals. Or Vakati, and therefore for Shvarim is a muad. For everything else, he's not a muad. Or Dilam, or maybe Haishor Batra, the last shore, is after the Chamor v'Gamal. I'm going to throw it on. And therefore he became a muad for everything. That's the Gemara's question. So the Gemara says, another safek. Chamor, Gamal, Shor. The opposite. Chamor, Gamal, Shor, but then you have Shor. So the middle shore, like basically like this, the first shore basically in this case, is that after the first 2, and therefore that's what he said. Aishor Kama, right? Batar Chamor v'Gamal Shadin Levi, he became a muad for everything. Or Dinar maybe Batar Shvarim Shadin. You go after the Shvarim, and therefore he's going to be a muad for Shvarim for everything else. He's not a muad. A third case. Are you with me? A third case, right? Shabbat. Echad b'Shabbat, sheni b'Shabbat. Shabbat, Sunday, Monday. What's halacha? The last Shabbat. Is that after the Shabbatot, and therefore he became a Shabbat? He became one for Shabbatot, but not for Yomot HaChol. Or maybe it's after Sunday, Monday, because it was Shabbat, Sunday, Monday, the last one. So maybe it becomes for everything. Right? Right? Another Safek. Hamishi Shabbat. Erev Shabbat. Right? So one more time. Thursday, Friday, Shabbat. Yeah? What is it? What do you say? Do you say Shabbat Kamaita goes after the Shabbat, Shabbat, and therefore it's a muad for every single day? Or do you say that the Shabbat Kamaita goes after the Shabbatot, and therefore it's only a muad for Shabbatot and no muad for anything else? In all these answers, we answer Teiku.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We should.
Bezat Hashem. Very soon. Yeah, we don't know. We don't have an answer. No answer. Fine. Okay? Next. Nagach. By the way, this was very easy. Like I'm saying, the cases were very easy. I'm saying, okay? So he says, Nagach Shor Yom 15 b'chodesh zeh, v'Yom 16 b'chodesh zeh, v'Shiva b'chodesh zeh. Right? What happens if he comes and he's going to gore on the 15th of this month, and then he's going to gore on the 16th of the next month, and the 17th of the next month? Again, these are the similarities that we were speaking about with the vestot, with the fixing of the periods. 15, 16, 17, and every month it went up 1 day. So this is a plukta of Rav and Shmuel. As it says in a Braita, if she saw blood on the 15th of the month, and then the 16th of the next month, and then the 17th of the next month, Rav comes and he says she's kovat veset for dilug of one day. Okay, and Shmuel says ad sheteshalesh bedilug. Okay, you're going to be mishalesh bedilug. What does it mean mishalesh bedilug? You're going to have to be mishalesh. You have to do 3 times. Right? Why? Because basically the first one is not counted. 15, 16, 17. You're going up by 1. How many times do you go up by 1? Twice, not 3 times. There's 15 to 16 and 16 to 17. So you're still missing 1. That's why Shmuel says you need 1 more time. You need 18. That's the machloka between Rav and Shmuel. Okay? Amar Rava. Rava comes and he says, Shama kol shofar v'nagach. Imagine he heard the shofar and he gored. Right? Kol shofar v'nagach. Kol shofar v'nagach. Someone l'shofarot. He becomes a muad. Every time that he hears the siren, boom, he gores. He became a muad. Yeah? So says the Gemara Pshita, obviously. Why wouldn't you say that? Says the Gemara, I would have thought to say, Hachshor kama, shofar kama, siyuta be'alma hudenakte. I would say that the first kola shofar that he heard is a siyuta, is like basically a pachad. And since he was mefached, that's why he just went wild. He went crazy. Right? Kamashmalan comes to teach you know that even the first one is part of the count. Meaning, one more time, the shor hears a shofar. He's very nervous. He doesn't understand what's going on. Yeah, he thinks the Mashiach is coming. Right? So he goes nervous, he gores. Yeah? So what happens? So therefore, and he does that 2 other times. He becomes a muad. So we would have thought to say that the first time was just he was afraid. He went wild. He just was afraid. So therefore, it's not a real. So Kalashmala, no, that is going to be.
So if he gores a 4th time without any.
From the Mishnah, Amud Bet towards the middle, towards the bottom. It says over here like this: Shor shel Yisrael shenagach shor shel Ekdesh. When you have a shor of Yisrael that gores a shor of Ekdesh, or a shor shel Ekdesh that gores a shor shel Ediot, patur, he doesn't have to pay. Shneimar says in a pasuk, shor v'chigov shor et isha shor re'ehu ve'lo shor shel Ekdesh. We already learned this, if you remember. So if somebody gores a shor shel Ekdesh, he's going to be patur. Shor shel Yisrael shenagach shor shel Kanani, if also a shor of a Jew gores a shor of a Kanani, is going to be patur. The shor shel Kanani shenagach shor shel Yisrael ben tam memuad meshalem nezek shalem. He always has to pay nezek shalem. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara, Matzrit in the local Rabbi Shimon ben Asiyah. Our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Shimon ben Asiyah. The Tanya was learned in a Braita. Shor shel Ediot shenagach shor shel Ekdesh. Shel Ekdesh shenagach shor shel Ediot patur. Shneimar shor re'ehu v'lo shor shel Ekdesh. Rabbi Shimon ben Asiyah omer shor shel Ekdesh shenagach shor shel Ediot patur. Shel Ediot shenagach shor shel Ekdesh ben tam muad meshalem nezek shalem. So obviously this is not like Rabbi Shimon ben Asiyah, because Rabbi Shimon ben Asiyah says if it was shor shel Ekdesh to shor shel Ediot is patur, but Ediot to shor Ekdesh is always nezek shalem. Meaning, according to Shimon ben Asiyah, the hekdesh will never lose. The hekdesh will always win. Meaning, if the shor shel hekdesh gores, they're patur. But if somebody gores the hekdesh, always going to be chayav. Okay, Amri, they said, Maika Sava Rabbi Shimon. What does Rabbi Shimon hold? Right? So he says, davka. If he's going to say shor re'ehu davka, so even if a idiot that's going to be nagach shor shel hekdesh would be patur. Right? Re'ehu lav davka. So obviously it means lav davka. So if you look at the so therefore, if the shor shel hekdesh gores the gor shel idiot, he should be chayav. What's going on then? Like Rabbi Shimon ben Asiyah, how's he learning? If he's learning the word re'ehu davka or lav davka, it just doesn't make sense. How does it make sense to say shor shel hekdesh that gores is always patur? If we gore the shor shel hekdesh, we're always chayav. If you learn the word re'ehu, so therefore it's either you're patur for both or chayav for both. You cannot split. What's going on? The chitim, and if you're going to tell me the reason why idiot is going to be chayav is because the kamaitela mikal v'chomer the idiot we're going to make a chavachomer. Uma idiot shenagash shel idiot. If you have a idiot that scores another idiot, he's going to be chayav. If it's going to be goring of a ekdesh, koshken should be chayav. So says the Gemara, fine, but the yol over minadin you can do. Male halam tam mishlem chatzi nezek ve'hachanami chatzi nezek. Says 1 second. You know what? It makes sense to kavachomer. But you have dayo. What's dayo? Dai. What is dai? Dai means you have to apply the same ruling. Meaning you're right. I'm making kavachomer. If a short hediot or short hediot, is he chayav? Yes. But how much is he chayav? Chetzi nezek. So to here, if you're going to gore the hekdesh, you should be chayav maximum chetzi nezek. The Shimon ben Asiyah says you're chayav nezek shalem. Ben tam ben muad. Doesn't matter whether you're a tam or muad. You always pay nezek shalem. So what's going on then? So you can't learn from the kavachomer because you have dayo lavo min adin liot karidon. You have dayo. You cannot overcharge him more than the kavachomer. I'm learning the Kavachomer, but I can't charge you more than the Kavachomer. So he says, El Amar Shakish, but rather Shakish says, Hakol ayu bichlal nezek shalem. Everybody was part of the nezek shalem, right? As keshpira lecha katuv lehu legabe tam lehu the tam meshalem chatzinen miklal dekdesh ben tamuah meshalem nezek shalem. He wants to say like this. Really, be'emet, everybody, even a hediot and everything, had to pay always nezek shalem, right? That means basically, even when a hediot gores another animal, technically he has to pay nezek shalem. When the Torah says re'ehu, it was talking about the tam, right? That he says re'ehu the tam mishalem chetzi nezek. Only by your friend do you have to pay chetzi nezek by a tam. So tzmash maderekdesh, even a tam will pay like the regular, which is nezek shalem, and that's how we're learning it. Ben tam mimua mishalem nezek shalem. Tim ken bezef so nichtov. We're going to get to the two dots on the top of Masechet and Aleph. Nichtov kra lehai. So why wasn't it written re'ehu by a muad? Why is it written by a tam? So that's why. It's according to Rishonim Menasiyah, it's coming to teach you that really by all animals you should pay nezek shalem. But there's a special thing by a tam that you pay chetzi nezek. But since it says re'ehu by a tam, only by re'ehu does a tam pay chetzi nezek. Other than that, re'ehu will always pay. If it's not re'ehu, sorry, it will always pay nezek shalem, which is going to be for Hegdesh.